I wanted to begin this segment with just what success might look like for Georgia football in 2024 because thanks to their brilliance, Georgia has kind of reset the standard for what we expect from them just in the last 7 years. If you're taking it back to when Kirby Smart first got that job in his first season in 2016, you didn't know that Georgia was going to become a dominant force in college football. You knew that they were always good. You knew that they always had what it took to get to the SEC championship in a weaker SEC East than the SEC West. You also knew that all they had to really do was hit on the talent they had and have a football coach who made recruiting the lifeblood of the program. And in Kirby Smart, they got that. They got one of their own to understand not just what is in the state of Georgia, but what is around the state of Georgia and what Georgia Bulldogs football can mean in the South, particularly the Southeastern Conference. But I'm really interested in the conversation around what this program expects for itself in 2024, and I don't think that there's anything to hide behind when we talk about that. There have just been two Heisman winners at Georgia, Frank Sinkwich, 1942, and Herschel Walker, 1982. And the way that I look at this is they don't need a Heisman Trophy winner to win national championships in the way that, say, Joe Burrow needed to be a Heisman Trophy winner for LSU to win in 2019. But that doesn't make them any different than, say, 2015 or 2018 Clemson, who also did not need a Heisman Trophy winner to go and win the national champion. And the Heisman Trophy winner has not really been that important to winning national championships. However, the Heisman Trophy finalist is usually a national champion, okay? If you get invited to this thing in December, it's usually a really good indicator of whether or not you are going to win the damn thing. I say this because Stetson Bennett, who walked on not once but twice at Georgia, ended up getting invited to the Heisman Trophy presentation and led Georgia past Texas Christian in the worst beatdown of any team in any bowl ever. Just happened to be in a national championship, 65-7. And I was really interested in the symmetry with that because while that game will forever live on for that reason, it also is the peak of Georgia football. It is the absolute best of any Georgia football because it is back-to-back national championships, the first program in history to do that during the age of the college football playoff. And it added a moment where nobody was picking against Georgia after they got past Ohio State because Noah Ruggles couldn't make a field goal. But on the other side of that particular game was an offensive coordinator who was basically known until 2022 as the little brother to Lincoln Riley. His name is Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley ends up winning the Broyles Award, for which I thought Dan Lanning should have won that damn thing, but I wasn't voting in, and all three finalists were deserving, including Garrett Riley. I just would have voted for Dan Lanning at number 1, and I probably would have put Garrett Riley at number 3, right? I'm looking at that, and I'm going, how does Garrett Riley begin to scheme and practice for Georgia on August 31st? Because you'll know he became the offensive coordinator at Clemson last year. And while they were not elite, they have the talent to be. And he's got a quarterback in Cade Klubnik that has everything to prove. And I say that because I watched Cade Klubnik lead Austin Westlake past Quinn Ewers in South Lake Carroll in a state championship game. And since then, Quinn Ewers has been the better quarterback. Quinn Ewers led Texas to a Big 12 championship and to a college football playoff berth. Cade Klubnik has yet to lead Clemson to an ACC title or to the college football playoff. Meanwhile, Garrett Riley needs to be looking at that Georgia football team, particularly Kirby Smart and Glenn Schulman, and going, I owe y'all. But is there anything that he's going to be able to do about it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium at noon Eastern on August 31st? That is, I think, the question and where I want to start the conversation about Georgia and success, because that game is going to indicate what we think about Georgia. For many of us, they're going to start no worse than number 2 in the country. Many will have them at number 1. The coaches poll already has them at number 1. Doesn't matter that they didn't play the college football playoff. Doesn't matter that they didn't win the SEC championship. It matters that they won 12 games before losing the SEC championship to an Alabama team that barely lost to Michigan and the Michigan team that ended up winning the national championship. You look at that squad, and you know that they are good, but like most of these Georgia football teams over the last 7 years, there's only one or two players that you can pick out as name brands, and Carson Beck is the name brand on that football team. Passed for over 3,900 yards, completed 70% of his passes, but this year he ain't got no Brock Bowers to throw to. And while Georgia football fans don't think that that is a big deal, I think that is a massive deal. I think that is a tremendously big deal. Because Brock Bowers was for Carson Beck what Travis Kelce is for Patrick Mahomes, which is the greatest tight end in the sport. And now not only do you not have that guy, you don't have anybody I think measures up to that guy. Okay? At one point, Georgia's tight end room was one of the greatest that anybody has ever seen. If you take into account what Eric Gilbert had done at Marietta, Georgia, and before he decided to get stupid and start trying to rob people, you're looking at him and Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers, and that's the same tight end room, and everybody was happy. Okay? Darnell Washington, who's still remarkably just an enormous man. 260 pounds, 6'7", he catching passes, not pass rushing. That's ridiculous. And now I'm thinking about what people think about, that Georgia receiving core, and while some people are going, Dylan Bell ain't the best we got, okay, fine. Who is? That's what we want to know. Is it Dominic Lovett? Is it London Humphreys, who transferred in from that mighty institution of Vanderbilt? I want to see it. I want to see how you are going to be good on the back end, right? I think Malachi Starks is as good as advertised, and he was Thorpe Award finalist for good reason. But you're probably going to be very young back there at safety and very young at corner. However, it's Kirby, right? It's his defense. It's Glenn Schumann. It's his defense. There's a lot to pull on this, right? Do you have a DeAndre Baker back there just laying in the cut? Probably. Do you have a Keely Ringo back there laying in the cut? Probably, but we need to see it. And if you are going to play this Clemson program and not beat them like a drum, do we still trust you to be elite? Because I got to tell you, if Clemson somehow finds a way to win this game, we're going to have real questions about whether Georgia makes the SEC championship game, because we don't think this Clemson team would. Full stop. Period. It's Cade Klubnik. There's no Will Shipley there. You got a pretty great linebacking core. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Barrett Carter. But outside of that, you're asking a lot out of Dabo Swinney and Clemson Tigers to go get a win here, which is why I think Georgia should win this game by 2-3 touchdowns. And if they don't, we should really start thinking about who is actually going to win the college football playoff national championship in 2024.